Places of worship have reopened again in South Africa, and that means that many people will head back to church today. Last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that religious gatherings will now be allowed in the country, but they will have to operate under strict COVID-19 safety protocols. Malungelo Booi is at Grace Christian Fellowship in Tshwane, and we're also joined by Mweli Masilela in Nkoma. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Malu, how are things looking where you are? Obviously, celebratory moods, I presume, with people getting back to church after so many weeks away.
Well, not quite, Hugo. In fact, when we arrived here at the Grace Christian Fellowship, there's very few people that were actually inside. In fact, I counted about 3 people inside the church. But one of the things, though, that you can see is that the way they've arranged the seats, they've made sure that there is social distance between the people that will be sitting inside the church. But now we're starting to see the number of cars arriving is also starting to peak, and that's a sign then that the service is going to get underway any time from now. But I think it is important, Hugo, to tell you that Grace Christian Church falls under the All Africa Bishops' Council. On Thursday last week, those bishops were actually quite critical of government, saying that they are unhappy with the number of restrictions in terms of the number of people that are allowed inside the churches. If you recall, Hugo, the president on last Monday said that the places of worship inside, they'll have to have about 50 people, and those 50 people will have to make sure that they are sanitized and their temperatures are also taken. For outdoor religious gatherings, only 100 people are allowed to be to be outside. But what these churches under the All Africa Bishops' Councils have actually been saying is that they have enough space in their properties or in their churches to allow half of their congregants inside their churches and still be able to observe all the safety protocols, saying that government should allow them to do that. They went as far as to say that they feel like they're being treated like puppets because government has not consulted all religious leaders when it comes to the issue of closing and opening churches. But today, though, you're right, we are going to see a lot of places of worships being opened as people return to churches after they were closed, I think about 3 months ago by the president, when we started to see the resurgence of COVID-19 cases during the second wave. Hugo.
Welly, any activity in Nkoma this morning?
Yes, as you have heard from Malungelo Booi, my colleague there, I think it's the very same situation here. I arrived early this morning and had a conversation with the leader of this church here, the Revelation United Church here in Nkoma. He is actually saying that, well, they are happy that the churches are now open, but their gripe with government or the president is that only 50 people are allowed indoors. As you can see behind me, already preparations are underway, and I can tell with the arrangement of the chairs here that they are trying by all means to ensure that indeed there is social distancing. And according to the leader of the church, they also make sure that before people attending at this church come through the doors, they are sanitized and also wearing their masks. But what the leader of this church is saying, because he is part of a pastors' movement, a newly formed structure that is advocating for government to sort of engage pastors across the country, because according to them, they believe that only certain structures are recognized, and now they are forming this movement to make sure that their voices are heard, not only about the issue of the COVID-19 pandemic, but also they want to be part of the formulation of government policies so that they ensure that also in terms of their interests, they are recognized.
One of the issues that came up is that the absence of congregants at church as having a financial impact on the churches. Do you get that feeling there too?
Well, they wouldn't want to talk much about that issue because it's quite a controversial one on their side. But what they say is that if people are being allowed, for example, to go in numbers to local malls, it means that the church can also be allowed to be filled about 50% in terms of capacity. So because what the leader of this church has highlighted also is that the issue of the COVID-19 pandemic has also affected marriages. So they also need some time and space to have an engagement with married people because they are coming to them, some of them, to say that they've got financial challenges. And indeed, he emphasized that point to say that many marriages has crumbled. And as a marriage counselor as well, he's concerned about those issues. So he's appealing to government to say that open up the space, allow people to come to the church, especially making sure that it's just 50%, not 100%. They're saying that some of the churches are big enough to accommodate 50% of congregants. So I think that's the main issue. Actually, they're saying that they're considering even marching to the provincial governments here to raise their concerns because they believe that this issue of the lockdown regulations could have been handled better than what it is today.